Hey y'all, this is Conrad Layn here. I'm going to explain the benefits of having a lease on Turo. It's not the only way, it's not the right way or the wrong way. It just depends if it fits your perspective and your strategy execution. Financing to own is a great strategy as well, but so is leasing. So I'm going to dive right into leasing. I have other videos that go into detail about how to actually finance to own a vehicle, but this is going to be strictly about leasing and the benefits. So let's dive right to it, people. So go on a walk with me. So let's do this. So anyways, let's dive right into it. So, in regards to a lease, you have to consider the way I look at a lease is like a long-term rental. And the reason why I consider it a long-term rental is because essentially you never really own the car. There is a cool option. One of the benefits are if you really love the car and it's doing really well and you have a different exit strategy in regards to just switching out your lease, like you can actually oftentimes at the end of the lease negotiate up the price down or even purchase the vehicle outright after you've already used the vehicle for Turo. You can purchase it for yourself. You can purchase it to maybe put it on a different platform or to keep it on Turo and keep accruing profit. So that's another benefit why I like leases, because you're not forced to buy the vehicle. But if you want the vehicle, oftentimes you have first dibs on the vehicle, and they're usually better maintained because usually you want to watch the mileage, you want to watch the tires, you want to take care of the lease because you don't want to be charged overage fees, etc., etc., etc. So oftentimes that's one of the key elements and benefits is actually having a lease, is because you can actually buy the car that was a lease and make it your own car and buy it out on it. Pretty cool. Another benefit is that you could profit right away. And when I say profit right away, I have another video that I believe right here, or right here, it goes over GRM on real estate license. So GRM stands for is a real estate term that stipulates gross rent multiplier. The video that I left earlier up there is going to explain what GRM is, but just a quick summary. It means basically whatever the price of the building or property or real estate is, and then you basically figure out what the rents that you're earning, and figure out, and you multiply it by the year, the rents, and then within a certain time frame, you use that GRM model to pay off in, say, 1 to 2, 3 year time frame. And that's how I purchase cars, and it allows me to actually be able to purchase cars because I'm able to profit. It helps you with profiting. So if you want to profit and learn about how to profit with a lease right away, the GRM video that I left above right there earlier is going to definitely help you with that. So anyways, you're able to profit right away because in comparison to financing, you're buying to own the vehicle. And people have loans for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, sometimes less, but that's usually the most common is 5, 6, 7 years. So if you have a loan like that, you usually have to pay monthly for it. The lease is a little bit different. Like I said, it's a long-term rentals because you never really own it. So all you really do, you're paying your monthly rate and that's it. So usually for a 2 year term, typically speaking, 24 months usually is what's normal and common. So the cool thing about that, all you have to do now, if you have a lease, it gives you the benefit of paying one your first month. As long as you make your first payment, all the other money over that, the GRM that I explained earlier, the profit of this will be right in your pocket. You pay your bills, taxes, etc., and then basically you're just profiting. As long as you earn that one time, so say your lease payment is $200 per month, or $300 per month, or shoot, $800 per month, whatever it is. As long as you make that amount, that one-time payment, then now all you have to do, all the other money over that payment, you're basically earning pure profit. And the cool thing, it doesn't take into consideration where you have to really worry about depreciation, because depreciation is already figured out in the calculations on the lease agreement. So for example, you don't have to worry about the car getting older. You don't have to worry about really the depreciation of the vehicle because you don't own it anyway. You're not going to sell it. You don't ever own it. It's like a long-term lease. So all you're going to really do is learn how to actually pay your first month of payment. That's your lease payment. And then after the first month payment, all you need to do at that point is worry about, so if your payment is $200 per month, you earn that $200 per month, you pay that, and the rest you make with Turo goes in your pocket. You pay your insurance and it just goes into your pocket. That's the beauty of it in comparison to having to pay for 6, 7 years, like payments and interest and all that. Leases are really simple because they have a really simple exit date. You know what the contract is, typically for 24 months usually, and there's an exit date. You know, by this such and such date, it's already been figured out for you. So the cool thing about it, you can easily switch out from car to car. So if you exit out, say you have a lease of 2 years, for example, and you know your lease agreement ends, say, January 2024. That's the difference and one of the benefits, because with the finance to own, you don't have that, because remember, you have a long-term lease. So you have to worry about depreciation. If the car's depreciating in value, it's going down, it's not the same. So you're at the point where you're in a situation where you have to actually calculate and do a lot more figuring out. It's possible, as I do that, it's very possible, it's very profitable, but it takes a lot more figuring it out. It's not streamlined, because you have to figure out, okay, when should I exit out? If I'm financing to own, do I sell the car? What do I do with it? It's depreciating. You have this asset that was worth, say, 50,000, and now at the end of 2 years, it's worth only like 20,000. That's what you have to worry about. With a lease, that doesn't exist. So that's the benefit of having a lease. You don't have to worry about depreciation, because it's already been figured out into the lease agreement contract. So that's the really cool part about this. Now, a benefit also as well, I would highly, highly recommend negotiating the lowest price you possibly can, and in regards to getting some type of, say, paintless dent removal. It's called PDR, is the acronym. And what that essentially is, it's extra service you can add on for like a few dollars. You can negotiate all the way into the contract. And this service, what it does is it helps you bring it into your car dealership or wherever you have to lease with. And they basically get rid of any dents, any, like say, cracks or small dents or dents in general. It's called paintless dent removal. So they get rid of those for you. So they get those little scuffs out of your paint. Like, they really help you with it. It really comes out and really benefits you. It's very cost effective, because you want your car to keep looking right for the time frame you have it. So if you have a 2-year lease, a 24-month lease, you want to make sure your car looks right, because if it doesn't look right, like, that's the whole point why your car's on Turo. You want to make money. So the cool thing about this, in comparison, usually finance to own usually don't have deals like this. Like, leases do, because it's all about keeping them looking good. And since the company that gave you the long-term lease and they basically gave you a lease agreement, they oftentimes want to sell the car to someone else after the end of the lease, and they want it to look good. So they're usually inclined to give you something called a PDR, paintless dent removal, so that you can keep the car looking right. If you add that in and you can negotiate that, to very cost effective for just a few bucks typically. Pretty cool. It's a really great gem and hack that you guys can use. I will really also consider wear and tear contracts. What wear and tear contracts are essentially, just simply in a nutshell, do your own research, make sure it fits your strategy, negotiate the price down. You can get it for a few dollars as well. It really works out well in comparison to doing this with a finance. It benefits more on the lease side, in my personal opinion, because what it does essentially is it gives you more peace of mind for a very cost effective rate, where say your tires are bald, say your tires are worn and torn from natural wear and tear, which happens especially in this industry of rental cars. You basically now can actually have bring your car in. If they're all bald, bring it in, they'll take care of your tires, and voila, they basically fix your tires, or they basically get you to a point where they get you some new tires, because that's what the policy covers. Look into this, do your own research, make sure to read the small print, but this is something you might want to really look into. Really highly recommend it. It's basically wear and tear for tires. You might also want to consider also looking into some type of warranty. Usually for finance to own, it doesn't make as much sense, but on the lease side, from what I've seen, they give better plans, better contracts. You want to read the small print, because oftentimes a lot of warranties aren't worth it. But when it comes to a lease, they usually have their own leases that actually can benefit, warranties that can benefit you, that come with it. So the cool thing about this, you don't want to buy. I want to make this very clear. Warranties are phenomenal, but the problem with warranties oftentimes on the finance to own side, and even the lease side, but especially the finance to own side, they want you to buy like additional ones, especially if it's a used car. Typically leases for the most part are usually newer cars or new cars. So you want to make sure to get a warranty plan that comes included with it. It's a manufacturer warranty. So when you lease cars, they typically offer manufacturer warranties. Always ask what the manufacturer warranties are, what the powertrain warranties are that come with the car. You don't have to buy these. These come for free with the vehicle, because it's a newer vehicle anyway. That's the benefit of having a newer car typically, and that's where the benefit is when you lease a car in comparison to financing to own. Typically speaking, most people that finance to own buy used cars, and usually the warranty's already over or about to be over, and they ask you to add on, which I don't agree with, because oftentimes if you just save some money and put it aside, you usually could pay less for the repairs than what the warranty costs itself. Bad deal. But if it's a newer car, like a new lease, a new car, then at this point you can actually use that and get a new lease and then get a new vehicle that has a new warranty for say 4 to 5 years, and your whole lease term, you're good to go. Really cool strategy to do. Oftentimes, if you finance to own, even if you buy a new car, at the end of 2 years, it's already an older car, which is cool. And if you keep it going, it ends up running out anyway, because usually it says after 100,000 miles or at 6 years, whatever comes first, some type of stipulations like that. So you're at a disadvantage when you finance to own with these type of warranties. There's still good benefits, but you benefit more because usually leases are only 24 months, 2 years. So when you have a lease, you basically are at the point where you can actually benefit from these manufacturer warranties, because you're just switching out. And then once you get to that exit date at the end of 2 years, you can decide to maybe buy the car outright yourself, or get a loan on it to purchase it yourself if you want. You still have a fresh warranty. This is a newer car. Or you can either return the car, and then at this point, you just say, I'm gonna get a new car. That's one of the huge benefits, is the exit strategy. The exit strategy, there are so many different exit strategies, but in regards to lease, one of the most phenomenal exit strategies that have already been stated, I'm not saying anything new, this has been said all over YouTube, I just want to reiterate this great strategy, is that with the leases, you can exit out very smoothly. You get in the deal, at the end of 2 years, you have the exit date, you give the car back, voila, and you get a new car. And guess what? That new car is even a newer model. So every 2 years, you're getting a newer model. So that you're able to outcompete the person who's on the finance to own side, because their car gets older. Yes, it's very profitable on that side too. It's a great strategy, but it's a different strategy you have to implement. With the leases, the strategy is that you can actually really get to the point where you are at the point where you're really out competing people that have a finance to own, because a finance to own, typically their contracts are usually for 5 to 6 years, maybe 7 years, and they have the same car for all those years. So by the time they end of when they have their car paid off, if it's not destroyed or totaled by that time or damaged, it's an older model, it has a lot of miles, and it's usually out of warranty by that time, especially in this industry where you'll burn out the warranty so quick just with the mileage. You'll go way over the miles and you won't be covered. With a lease, you outcompete people that have finance to own, because you're constantly getting new cars every 2 years. Every 2 years, you have a new 2021, a new 2023, a new 2025, a new 2027, a new 2029, a new 2031, etc., etc. Every 2 years, you're getting a new car. That's the benefit in this. So if you get a lease, that's the huge one of the biggest benefits as well. There's so many other benefits, but that's one of the biggest benefits you can get, is the fact that you can actually get to the point where you are getting a new car constantly, out competing your competitors with the newer models, the newer technology, and that's a gem within itself, people. So when you consider a lease, always consider that the manufacturer warranties. Don't add on additional warranties, but consider the manufacturer warranties, the powertrain warranties, and warranties that already come with the car. Those are usually the best, even better than the ones you can add on, and they come included within the lease. And that's what I'll highly recommend with that, people. So I mean, when you consider a lease, consider that. And again, like I said, you profit right away, because you basically just have to worry about your monthly payment, monthly lease payment. And then you basically only have to worry about making sure that your bills are taken care of. And after that, everything's pure profit. And it's for a shorter time frame to get newer cars. That's what I recommend in regards to that. Also, another benefit is that when you have a lease, you can actually exit out. But when you exit out, you can actually negotiate the mileage overages, meaning oftentimes, not everything's not absolute, but oftentimes what you want to do, if you go over mileage, for example, right, if you go over mileage, you want to negotiate, even before you get to the end of your lease, a long-term or high mileage lease. It's usually called high mileage lease, but I have heard the term interchangeably with high long-term lease, which basically equates to high mileage lease. But I would just call it high mileage lease. So when it's a high mileage lease, typically most leases are anywhere from 12,000, 15,000, sometimes 18,000 miles. You want to try to negotiate, see if you get 24,000 miles, maybe 36,000 miles, etc., etc. And the reason this is very important, you don't want to be charged overage fees. And if you are, you usually have plans that will allow you to pay an additional, say, $300 or additional amount, whatever the case is or amount is. They'll allow you to pay this, and then once you pay it, they'll allow you to basically get additional miles. So maybe 36,000 miles, maybe 40,000 miles, or maybe 24,000 miles, maybe 20,000 miles, etc., etc. because in this industry you're going to get so many different miles, it's going to have your head spinning. So on average you could get 40,000 in 1 year, you know what I mean, 20,000 depending on how things go. So you have a few options to handle this. The first option is negotiate at the first. You always have the most power in the beginning of a deal. Negotiate a high mileage lease. Fact, first point. Second, if that doesn't go well, or if it does go well, still implement this. Put some overages fees on there, meaning on your Turo profile. On Turo, you have the option to charge overages. So if your guests go over the miles that are stipulated, you just offset the cost to them. Fine. Okay, maybe be penalized. Maybe you'll be charged an extra $100 here, $200 there because you got extra mileage. But if you offset that with your guests and put it in the fine print, don't go over 200 miles. Don't go over 300 miles. And if they do, you can put there 35 cents per mile, 33% per mile, 50% per mile. Depends on the car, make, and model, if it's deluxe or not. You can start putting different mileage caps there and overages to offset. So even if they go over your miles and you're charged, you can offset it and have your guests pay for it. You're still good. So yes, who cares if you don't get the high mileage? Say you can't negotiate well, or maybe you can negotiate, you just don't have the opportunity. Maybe you just get a regular lease and not a high mileage lease. Really implement two things. Implement overages, adding on overages, so that if someone goes over the miles, when you're penalized, you're not hurt still. So yes, the car goes over and you have to pay that because they'll penalize you for that, and you have to pay fees for adding on additional miles to that lease car that you went over your contract. You basically violate your contract. Fine. Then what you have to do at the point is offset it, have the guests pay for that. You're still good. Nothing comes out of your pocket, and even try to add a little bit more on, where if they go over in miles, you make a little bit of profit. Highly recommend that. Next best tip that you should add in addition to that, charge higher fees. To do this, your car got to look right. At this point, it's really cosmetic. Have it looking right, have the extras all listed there, take really nice pictures, very important. Try to outcompete your competitors, reverse engineer, look at other people's pictures, try to take better pictures of them. And most importantly, if you can, try to consider getting a deluxe car, meaning not being biased, not being classist, but consider getting, if you're gonna get a lease, consider getting a Mercedes, for example, a BMW, a Jeep. If you can't get these cars, cool. But the point is, when you have deluxe cars, typically you can usually charge more than a commuter car. I have both. I have deluxe cars. I also have commuter cars, like a Nissan. It does well. And certain cars, I would say you shouldn't probably get a lease for if it's not, say, a deluxe car. And hey, there's always exceptions to the rule. I'm not perfect. I'm just your friend on YouTube. I'm just sharing my opinions, perspectives, but I'm not absolute. I'm not correct, but I'm not always correct. I'm human, but I think I'm very correct about that. In my opinion, is that if you're gonna get a lease, try to get something a little bit nicer. If you're gonna get a lease anyway, might as well. Like, I would never get a lease with a Nissan Versa. That's just, just how it is. It does well. It's one of my actually best sellers. Crazy thing. It's booked every day. I never see it. Right under my Tesla's my first, second with my Nissan, I would say. And then my other cars do well too, but Nissan does exceptionally well. And I purchased it for $4,700. Yeah, $4,700, to make sure I'm correct. I made about over 300% of that. So I earned well over like $13,000 on that car. Really cool, since it's owning it. So the point is, I would never get a lease with it, because that type of car, it wouldn't grant me the rate I would need that would make sense for me to have a lease and to pay overages. You know what I mean? But if it's, say, a BMW, a Mercedes, a Corvette, something like that, you could charge higher daily rates. Those are accepted because they're deemed to be nicer cars. And then that can offset. So if someone goes over, you put the overage caps there. So on tours, you make extra money on the overages, you offset that, but also you're making a higher daily rate. Whatever penalties you're charged, you're offset, you're still in the profit. You must charge higher rates with overage fees there, and then to be able to satisfy a lease agreement just in case someone goes over your mileage. Very important to always consider this. Very important. Always do that. Always consider that. Because if you could get a lease, do your best to get a deluxe car. Deluxe doesn't have to be a crazy car, but just maybe a more luxurious car, or a car that's more sought out in your demographic. Maybe it's not a luxury car demographic. Maybe it's a Jeep demographic, which that could still be considered luxury, but maybe it's not the Mercedes. Maybe it's a Jeep. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a Bronco. I don't know. You have to do your homework, but the point is, consider those type of cars so you get higher daily rates while you have this lease, so it offsets if someone goes over and it violates your lease term contract. Very important to do that, people. Next, that's very important, is that accidents happen. They occupy the same space. Risk, you can't have business without risk. You can't have risk without business. Just how it is, people. So we're in an industry where you do have a Turo plan. There's a Turo 60, Turo 70. Sorry, Turo 70 doesn't exist anymore. Turo 60, Turo 75, Turo 80, Turo 85, Turo 90 plan. These plans will help you actually offset so that if your car is totaled or if it's in an accident, for example, you're good to go. Meaning, if your car you lease is damaged, and say your car's worth, let's say 40,000, 50,000, 10,000, whatever it's worth, your Turo insurance plan will pay whatever the value of the car is. But we all know that unfortunately cars are depreciating assets, but Turo allows it to turn it into a depreciating asset. The problem is this still. What comes first? The egg or the chicken, as they say. I might have messed that analogy up, but the point is, you have to actually understand the fact that if you're going to actually get a car, you have to be able to offset the risk. So if you have, say, a Turo plan and it pays the value of the car, but once you drive off the lot, the value of the car depreciates significantly. So that means even if you have, say, a loan on it or a lease, it doesn't matter if you finance it, especially for leases as well. If the car goes through a claim and Turo pays you out, or sorry, pays the lender out, if it's totaled or just damaged, the problem is this, is that you're still gonna have a negative equity. It's called being upside down. I'm real estate licensed as well, and there's a term where if a house loan is more than the asset, the house itself, the house is upside, the loan's upside, it's an upside down deal. Because what happens is the loan's more than the house. That's bad, very bad. So that happens often in cars because the cars unfortunately lose about 10 to sometimes 25% as soon as you drive them off the lot. So if you have a car that's worth, say, for example, 20,000, and you drive off the lot and it's only worth 15,000, for example, Turo will only pay 15,000, so you're left with negative equity, right? That's the problem. You need to consider getting gap insurance. Highly recommend it. Gap insurance, guaranteed asset protection. Gap insurance. Gap insurance is what will save you from negative equity. And so once you get gap insurance, you'll be able to actually use the gap insurance to be able to get to the point where you can actually use that amount to offset whatever is owed, and then your hands are clean. You're good. Wash your hands with it, rinse and repeat, on to the next. The lender's happy because they're paid out. You're happy because you don't have negative equity. And guess what? Such an easy exit strategy. You just go and get another lease. Voila. That's it. Consider getting gap insurance, and always contact your gap insurance company because Turo is an unorthodox blue ocean company, meaning it's a new type of company. Some insurance companies, gap and regular insurance, don't understand the business model. So what you have to do, you have to do your homework. Say, hey, contact the gap insurance company. Do you guys cover if I rent this car out? If they say yes, you're good. If they say no, you have a problem. So what you have to do then, okay, do you have a commercial side? A lot of insurance companies have a commercial site, or they know who to contact. And if you don't know how to contact them, that's fine. Then what you need to do is first contact the regular gap insurance, ask them, do they cover negative equity if your car is total lost in a claim, if you rent the car out for money on Turo. If they say yes, you're good. If they say no, what you have to do, ask them, do they have a commercial side? And if they don't have a commercial side, if they do, you're good. If they don't, what you need to do, a super hack, I'll give you guys. I have other videos that go over this, but contact your local rental car company, and Hertz, Avis, Alamo, whoever your local rental car company is. Go there, speak with the staff there, and say, hey, who do you guys use for gap insurance? They also use gap insurance oftentimes to offset their costs. They don't want to pay a depreciating asset, negative equity. They're a business as well. And if they tell you, you just got your answer. If they don't tell you, you have to be a little savvy. You rent the car for a day, run some errands, hey. Then you get the car, you add on. They usually add you, say, hey, do you want to add on insurance? You say, yes, I do. You add on insurance. Now you have the insurance information. Now you just got it. You bought it, right? So if you go to Enterprise, Hertz, Alamo, any of these rental car companies that are traditional, you ask them for the rental car insurance to add on. Now you have the information. Contact the insurance company directly. Find out that way. Now you'll get the commercial gap insurance. You have to do a bit reverse engineering, but also I'm insurance licensed. I've been insurance licensed for over 8 years, so I'm teaching you secret hacks that most people don't know. These are gems I just dropped on you guys. So that's another way you can actually do it, to get gap insurance to cover your negative equity, and that's how you actually do this, people. That's how you actually protect yourself. You have to protect yourself in business. There's always going to be risk and liabilities. That's what makes it business, people. But it's worth it. It's worth the bit. It's worth the profit. It's worth the experience. And it's a worth it experience if you actually get this all taken care of and just implement the proper strategy to offset the risk. You just got to dance with the risk, people. So that's how you do it. So another strategy to really implement also is consider getting tires. Crazy, right? Your lease in your car that you get always comes with tires. Of course it does, because it's a car. But always consider this. How about this, people? Let's be a bit unorthodox. How about this? How about you actually get the car, get the tires off the car, right? Take them to a tire shop and purchase high mileage tires. The reason why high mileage tires matter is because you want to make sure the tires last for the duration of your lease. So if you have a lease, say for 24 months, you want your tires to last 24 months or 36 months or 48 months or whatever the months. High mileage tires, they're usually thicker, they're usually of a better quality. They're supposed to be. They're meant to last longer. That's how it is. Get those, put those on, take off those original tires, keep them in your shack, keep them at your house, put them somewhere, keep them, take them off, have the tire shop put the new tires on, and that's your investment. And the reason that you want that is because tires with rentals blow out often, and you have to keep getting new tires. How about this? Get some really good quality tires, negotiate the lowest price you possibly can, but high mileage tires that last a long time, so that the whole time you have the tires, you don't have to switch out the tires typically. And if you do, if it's the guest's fault, you just offset the cost again. You don't have to, nothing comes out of your pocket because the guest caused the damage, right? There you go. But it's your responsibility to take care of the tires. So how about this? Get better quality tires that are high mileage, that last a long time, so that at the end of at the lease, you just take those tires off, put the original tires back on, and guess what you did? Not only you save save yourself having to get multiple tires during the duration of the lease, you save yourself the being penalized and being charged wear fees at the end of the lease as well. So now you're not going to be charged those tire fees because the tires never got worn. You never used them. So now you just save yourself money. That's how you do it, people. That's a secret hack. Hope you guys got that. Next hack, however, if you get to the point where, say you did get over your miles because you're in the industry where you're going to have a lot of miles, fine. But I already told you, as long as you charge a higher daily rate, try to get a deluxe car for your demographic, charge a higher amount, also add on overage fees, etc. And that way you make money when the guest goes over the mileage cap. You're fine. But guess what? At the end of your lease, you might be penalized for that still. So what you want to do is do your best to negotiate those, get those taken care of, but do your best not to have those roll over into your new lease. Oftentimes, dealerships or your new lease provider might roll those into, and you might be penalized and have to pay for those, or they might add it into your next lease. Do your best to negotiate and say, hey, I want to take care of these now. I want to get rid of these fees and these mileage overages. I don't want it to come into my new lease agreement. So do that to negotiate that. But worst case, if it does, do your best to get a good deal where you get a better deal than the first deal you got. That's now, hey, I proved myself, I paid all my payments, give me another lease for 2 years, if that's the case. But if they try to add those overages or have you pay the fees at the end, try and negotiate those away and say, hey, I'm a return customer, please don't make me pay these, and negotiate it. Don't pay those. And if you have to pay them, at least you charge a high enough rate where you can actually offset that and pay it, and you still made a profit because you charge a higher fee, like Conrad Layn said, and you also basically charge the overage fees so that your Turo guest goes over your mileage, you can offset it pretty much, like Conrad Layn said. That's just my tip for today, what to do. But again, consider that. Again, really consider PDR, paintless dent removal. Very, very beneficial, because you're at the point where you can actually get rid of the dents and little paint chips, etc. Because if you take it into the dealership, they can actually get those removed because you have that extra contract, and that's very important. Also consider getting windshield cracks contracts where your dealership will have a contract to be able to get rid of the windshield cracks on your actual windshield. That's really a benefit as well. And if you do that, you can actually get that benefited. So meaning, if you get a crack in your windshield, like say your Turo guest is actually driving around to get a crack, it happens. It's actually pretty common. I've gotten a few. If you have a windshield crack contract, think of it kind of like a warranty in a way. You could buy this for a very cost-effective amount. They'll usually just switch that out, no fee. Sometimes they will even have a deductible. Sometimes it's like a $50 deductible, a $25 deductible, sometimes $75 deductible. Sometimes they just do it for free. Really cool way to do this so that you're always covered, so that you don't have to pay for a new windshield, like $3, $4, $5, sometimes $1,000 for a new windshield plus labor. Pay the darn thing in the beginning, negotiate the price down, get a windshield um, chip contract, which a lot of times comes right with the paintless dent removal contract and the wear and tear contract. Add those on and read small print. Make sure it benefits you though. Negotiate it down and make sure they do cover that. But those can really benefit you because you don't have to keep buying windshields. So you have to keep on buying new tires. So you have to keep on doing that. And again, also consider also getting some type of curb rash protection. Every dealership's different. Every municipality, state, and country is different as well. But if your demographic or locale offers this package, try to figure out if there's any type of curb rash. Meaning, if you get curb rash on your dents, they'll charge you anywhere from maybe 50 to maybe 60, so sometimes up to upwards $90 to get the curb rash and dents out of each tire. Sometimes they might charge you maybe $275. I've seen it very low, even $250, but $275 to $350 to $450 for the all four sets. For the whole set of four, they'll get rid of all the paint, the scuffs, and the curb rash, and the pockets and dents all on the tires. Do your best to get that taken care of as well. Add that in the beginning. Negotiate getting that curb rash contract, or ask them if they have this type of benefit. Also negotiate getting the windshield protection crack contract, and also the wear and tear contract, the tire contract, all that, so that you can actually spend less in the long run, because you're going to have a lot of different customers, a lot of renters, and there's a lot of chance for a lot of mistakes to happen. But you don't want to be caught holding the bag, and you don't want to be caught having to spend more money than is necessary. So have these plans in place, but always negotiate the price down. Read the small print, make sure it does cover. But these are great ways to offset risk. And I'm a risk mitigation specialist. I'm a business consultant, been in insurance license for over 8 years. And my goal is to reduce risk. You can never get rid of risk, but you can definitely reduce risk and offset risk. And that's what I'm sharing with you guys how to do. And that's how you actually probably take care of getting a lease. That's what you do. And I hope I didn't leave anything out, but I think I went over quite a bit of this. But it's really a great strategy. It's really great. I'm not saying you should pick getting a lease, or if you're already in a lease, you shouldn't pick this just because I said it. Just another great strategy. It's also another great way of earning income, but also getting financing to own is a great strategy as well, but it's just a different strategy you have to implement. But with a lease, you definitely have a lot of advantages. You always have a newer car. You always have basically the manufacturer's warranty at your disposal. You have all these great options. You can always change cars in and out like nothing. If you go through a claim, easy exit strategy. You can exit out anytime. Pretty cool. That's what I like about all of this, and I think I gave the world to you guys. I think that's everything. I hope I mentioned everything. So, I mean, if that's the case, always feel free to like, subscribe, share, leave any comments you guys or questions you have below. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer questions. I answer questions fairly quickly. I also have a Facebook group you guys can add. I always leave a link below as well. If you guys want to join my Facebook group, if you guys are a Turo host, I help Turo hosts and give them strategy executions. And I take my time. I'm a business consultant. This is my specialty. So I love you guys. Like, subscribe, share.